Yeah, you're just drinking tea, but you got to hide it off the side of the camera, right? Mm-hmm. Let me tell you something. When I was in college, I had 2 jobs. One was as a bouncer and one was as a waiter. And we used to have this guy that came in, and he was a legacy client. He was one of the chief administrators at a school down the road. He used to come in, and every day for lunch at 11:30, he would come in, have a club sandwich and a kettle of tea. So we would pour half a bottle of wine in a teapot for him. Ooh. And give him a coffee cup, and he would have him about a half a bottle of wine. And I'm thinking, if you're a school teacher, your life should not be that stressful.
That's funny. He's just trying to enjoy himself.
Yeah, he is. So, hey, back in the game, never let it be said that Wateef doesn't come with solutions. And I want everybody to first. Let's say hello to Franciele. She is always first on the team to say hello. Well, one of the first on the team.
Hey, good
afternoon.
How you doing? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, I love that. I try. Thank you. So let's do this. I want to introduce everybody to some cousins I discovered. So
right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, so let me set up the story. Then I'm gonna let you guys introduce yourselves and like why you're even here. But I got introduced to them through a friend. Shout out to Zayamo. Hey, they were in a group for Portugal, right?
Yes,
right.
And you were in a group researching Portugal, and Zaya said, there's a guy in Brazil, speaking of Portuguese, you should talk to named YusefWateef.
Right.
So you messaged me, or I messaged you, I don't remember which one. And then as we said hello and added each other on Facebook, I looked at your pictures and I said, wait a minute, why do you have pictures of these people on your Facebook? And you were like, those are my cousins. And I said, those are my cousins.
Crazy.
Where were you born? And I said, Niagara Falls, New York.
Right.
Niagara Falls, New York, y'all ain't but that big.
That big.
I mean, Niagara Falls is not that big.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
I was like, son of a gun. She said, well, wait a minute, did you go to I went to this high school. And so growing up, it's impossible for us to not have known each other as kids because it's that small of a place. We probably saw each other. Hold on. Did you ever go to field day?
Yes, I have. Absolutely. Field day used to be a bomb.
Did you go to the Black Experience?
Oh, yes, in Cinecourt.
Oh, we bumped into each other. Hey, it's a small world. But we're all family anyway. So let's do this. I want to let them introduce themselves and tell a little about their story because y'all need to buckle up. We got some stories for tonight.
Right. Well, first off, my name is Aquila. As Yusef said, we are from the same hometown. It's a pleasure to be on your channel. I appreciate you inviting us to be here. As I mentioned, my name is Aquila. I'm originally from New York, currently living here in the South. I am definitely a person that is excited about the opportunity to share more information on my travels and my experiences that I've had coming from a small town and having a chance to see the world in a different capacity. And you've already shared that you obviously have had that same experience and have been experiencing it for many years. And I'm really excited about the opportunity to share our collective experiences and expand on how, we were able to make that connection, how we're putting together a platform to be able to share those opportunities with many other people.
My name's Omar. I'm from Rochester. I actually moved to Niagara Falls, your hometown, right after high school.
Right.
And I actually, I've always wanted to travel and took a little bit of convincing, but after a few years was able to convince Aquila to step out, and we actually were able to leave the States. Twice. We went to Panama first and stayed there for 6 months. It was very enriching. Went to Colombia and a few other countries. I'm sure we'll get into that in detail, but my position is essentially, I have always wanted to see what life was like outside of the States. As a child, I was a reader, and I always imagined what it would be like to live in all of these other places, and so it was a burning desire for me, and so it went from becoming, being a traveler to more so wanting to live in these places and kind of learn the different cultures, more studying their histories, and that's always been something that's been interesting to me. So coming from Rochester and moving to Niagara Falls and getting married and doing the family life, establishing businesses, pretty much doing everything that America has to offer, and still found that something was missing. Something was missing, and I felt that
freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. It was that rat race was it gets old, right? It gets a bit old, and so it's like there has to be other options, right? And so I'm just excited to have met you. Once we connected, it was just an automatic connection. It was absolutely organic, and appreciate you. Your motivation, inspiration for us to even this isn't our normal band. Like, we're not social media people at all. And, you're like, no, you need to tell those stories. And so we appreciate you for giving us the opportunity. And hopefully we can share this with our, group and our friends and on our page as well. Is that okay?
Oh, definitely. When this is over, download the video, repost it on your page. But here's what the impetus of a lot of this was. Some of you who were here yesterday might remember, because I had to hurt some feelings the other day. When I did Guns, Germs, and Felonies. That's something I hope everybody gets a chance to go check out. But I did Guns, Germs, and Felonies, and I talked about how all this violent protest is really not going to help you at all. And one of the things I said was, if you took the picture of the most recently killed Black American, no matter who they are, because somebody just died today,
right?
If you made that picture black and white, would you be able to tell if that picture was taken in 2020 or 1920?
We were having that same exact discussion.
We just had that conversation yesterday.
Yeah. Asking for the same things that was being requested 60 years ago. At some point, you just have to realize that the society is collectively telling you, no, we won't stop police brutality. No. It's been 60 years.
So what we did is we expanded on your Instagram and created a Facebook group, because what we want to create this unique is, first off, just kind of acknowledging the word refugee. And for people who come back and forth to this channel, that more and more often we end up talking about how I like to call myself an expat or an immigrant. But the reality is, if you're running from a situation where people like you are being murdered and prosecuted, if you look it up in a dictionary or consult the United Nations, you're a refugee.
Right, absolutely. Even one of the first posts when we were building the group, the Facebook page, Paul had a chance to go on and kind of explain that in Europe and in other sections of the world, the only people who actually get the title of expat or an expatriate are Europeans. They see every single other group as an immigrant or as a refugee. And, and the truth of the matter is, when we decided to leave the States, it was after Mike Brown. I have two young boys, and they, we were living in Atlanta.
Right.
There was a killing that didn't make national news in our same county, where the police, the young man, he was like 19 years old, driving his mom's Maserati, and a cop just came up and literally unloaded on the car while he was just sitting in the parking lot in the car, not doing anything, and killed this young man. And it didn't make national news. And that was for us, like, okay, this isn't going to get any better. They just told us with Trayvon what they thought about that. They told us with Mike Brown what they thought about that. And so, and then, you still had, different things happening in Ohio, guy goes to Walmart, and all of these different situations was compiling around that time, one right after another. It's like every single month. And on top of that, there was the mass killings that were happening where people would just go to church and just, kill all of the people in the church, or they go to the movie theater and kill, so many people in the movie theaters. And so we collectively, sat down, had a chance to, sit down with our boys, and, they were like, Dad, we're scared. Like, and as a man, you feel your responsibility is to
protect and provide for your family.
To protect your family. And there are literally systems in place that prevent me or prohibit me from being able to protect my family. I had a problem with that. So we decided, listen, let's go scout. Let's go scout. And we chose someplace close, Panama, to do a scout trip, and from there it just kind of flourished. So that's why we came up with the term, because we were going to do the social media thing.
Right.
We didn't know how involved it was.
We were trying to determine when we were going to start traveling. We knew we wanted to sort of document, even though we're not really heavily into social media, or especially at that time, we wanted to be able to document our journey because we were having a very special and unique opportunity to be able to take our kids around the world to different countries and expose them to different cultures, different languages, and different places around the world. So we wanted to definitely be able to make that available, and just something that we could reference and go back to look at. And once we were trying to determine a name, we were like, okay, what do we want to call it? We obviously could have called it, whatever, our family travel channel or something like that, or whatever we wanted. And it was like, it just kept coming back. So one of the major reasons that we were determining to go was because of the fact that we wanted to see life beyond just seeing this constant repetitive cycle.
We got a quick question. It says content not available. Let me make sure that there's nothing wrong with our our link. I'm double checking. I'm trying to. That's weird. It says live now, and I'm seeing it on my page. Huh. If anyone else here, by the way, I think I see 13 people watching. So that means I need to have 13 people Googling Blacugees on Facebook. Mm-hmm. I want to make sure everything is working, and I expect the people who are regular here with me to join. Like, I expect that of you. I don't ask a whole lot, but that I'm asking because if you have a plan to get out, or you want to share resources because you have gotten out.
Right.
That's what we're trying to do, because it's not necessarily going to be sometimes, but we're in that state of emergency. So let me do something else real quick. I don't know if anybody saw it before we get back to there was a video called Black American Refugee in Pakistan, and I want to give a big shout out to Brother Daniel, who's also moderator. He decided that he wanted to leave the United States. As a devout Muslim, he moved to Pakistan, established a family, got an amazing wife, and is living his best life. And people compare us because we both have these two, what people would consider extreme views of what life should be, and decided to go do it.
Right.
I wanted to watch that because he was one of the first people to really bring me the technical data on why Black Americans, according to the United Nations, fit the technical definitions of a refugee.
Of refugees. Yeah, and it's just so interesting because when we felt like refugees.
Right. That's why we chose Blacugees.
And that's why we, coined the term Blacugees, because that's what we were fleeing violence. And because it was so indiscriminate. It could happen at any given time, anywhere. It was, happening all over the nation and in our own county. And that's literally the reason why we decided to finally step out. We've always traveled, but to move was completely 100% based upon us not feeling that our children would be safe,
right,
and wanting to find a place where they could be safe and just live their lives.
You know, something I wanted to add to that is we also watched a documentary by Michael Moore that came out probably, I think, around 2015, maybe, that was called Where to Invade Next. And the documentary basically discussed all of the different comparisons of other countries and the different levels in terms of quality of life and how the citizens in other countries are able to live and how they're able to prosper and different opportunities that are available across the board in terms of quality of life, education, free healthcare, you know, just societies that seem to offer a more healthy and balanced type of lifestyle. And we were just very interested in making sure that our kids had a chance to see that that was possible and to see that there were other options for them. At the time when we started the travel process, our son was in 9th grade. And so he basically spent his high school years traveling around the world in different countries, learning different cultures, learning different languages, and sort of having a chance to see what is available in terms of when he's getting ready to embark into adulthood. You know, those options were available to him to determine where he wanted to be, if he wanted to start his adult life in the States or if he wanted to do so abroad. We just wanted to sort of broaden that conversation for him and our younger son as well. And so that's what we determined we wanted to do. We sort of used that documentary sort of as like just sort of like a compass to start that process. And we just decided to go ahead and leap out there. And, you know, what was initially something that we had planned to do for maybe 1 year, within, I would say, maybe 3 to 4 months after we were outside of the States, we were like, why did we wait so long to do this? Like, let's continue to keep it going. So that's basically what we did. We didn't necessarily get permanent residency in those countries. We just got our visas, tourist visas, and we just started the process of searching. And, you know, we were very surprised that we were even able to establish a business, you know, very easily outside of the country as well. And so that really helped to broaden our horizons to see that there is a possibility and a lot of different options for African Americans across the diaspora to determine what's best for their life and their path, you know.
Let me ask a quick question. This content isn't available. It seems like some people said that they see it on Facebook, or Francis said, yeah, you're live. But then I'm also getting some people that said they can't see it. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I mean, I know we're always going to be, and by the way, for everybody watching on Facebook right now, make sure you click the subscribe button on the YouTube link. That's critically important. But I'm trying to figure out why some people just aren't seeing it. It says live event not supported on this client. Are you looking on your phone? I'm trying to figure out why it's not, because I'm looking at it here and I'm also looking at it on my YouTube page, and I'm getting, let's see, let me try this. Okay, I'm gonna put this here. So let's see. There. So we're gonna find out if that's, so yeah, I just put that on the Facebook page and it looks like it's up and running.
Okay.
I don't know what, oh, okay, hold on. Phone is going on fine. You're viewing it on mobile. That's weird.
It is, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's a bit strange.
And so, Veronica, you're watching it on your computer then, I'm guessing. You got it on the, and Charles, he said, yeah. He said, I can get you on my phone, but not my PC. I just don't know Yeah, that got me.
That's bizarre. Yeah.
So just going back to what we were saying earlier, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's all right. I'm trying to figure out the technical components.
He said, I don't see it on my phone. BK said, I'm on the PC as well. The stream is good on the Tube and Facebook via PC. Maybe it's a phone glitch. That's the only thing that, well, wait, I can get you on my phone, but not my PC. I don't. I don't know. We'll have to address that later. This is the very first time it's ever happened that people have said that they can't watch it on anything on Facebook. But moving forward, part of what you said, that physical safety that is so much of an issue for us. And it's that concept of understanding that you can be murdered at any time and it'll just be okay. There won't be any, there won't be any, it'll just be okay.
Yeah.
Right.
That's just the reality. I mean, there is no justice for you. And what I tell people is that if you are, first and foremost, if you're a Native American, and unfortunately there aren't very many of them left, or if you are a Black American, you don't owe America anything. A lot of us have the freedom to get the money, education, resources, whatever we need to get out.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a price, obviously, that has been paid over time, and it's just sort of like how much more has to be invested, how much more has to be, invested into this cycle of pain and cycle of just continued, toxicity. It's just mind-boggling. Right. So the awesome thing about it is to know and to become knowledgeable certainly opens up a different pathway. And I think that that's really important because, if you don't have that knowledge, you don't have that information, then you really do believe and buy into the system of belief that your options are limited when they're not.
Right. And I think that that's what we really want to present is that there are options. Some may take advantage of that. Some may not. Right. Black people are not a monolith.
Right.
We have so many different subsects to our culture. And I think, I feel a responsibility to try to illuminate to each subsection that I can reach that there are options, that you don't have to suffer this. I asked a question of my sons, and I says, how much blood capital are we willing to invest for, listen, not equal rights, just civil rights.
Just human rights, right?
Just basic human rights. It took all of this blood just for us to get civil rights.
So get this. Do you know the two groups of people, of all the persecuted and prosecuted people in the world, there are only two groups of people who had to take legal action to prove that they were humans? That's Native Americans and Black people. Had to go to court. Before they could actually say they had been persecuted or prosecuted, they first had to be legally awarded the status of a man.
You had to be proven to be human. I mean, it is so, it's a bit overwhelming at times, right? And so to think if we had as a people to have so much blood capital expenditures for civil rights, and we're asking for the past 60 years, hey, maybe, the cops could just, not kill us. How about that? Like maybe just, that'll be nice. Just not kill us. Just don't give us a chance to live. Right? I'm sorry.
UNHCR, the United Nations, the United Nations human, I forget the full acronym, but it gives the definition of what is a refugee. Refugees are people who have fled war, violence, conflict, or persecution that have crossed an international border to find safety in another country. If you can prove on paper that that's happened, you get to be a refugee.
And that I guess poses another question now, right? What countries will accept that status from people from America, from African Americans, because of the power that America holds. You know, how many countries, and these are things that I don't hold the answers to these things. These are things that we're searching out, that we're digging, and we're looking for to be able to present to people that these are the countries that will say, hey, you know, we'll provide that status of protection to you. And
I'm glad you asked. The politics behind it is as such. The United States of America puts an extraordinary amount of pressure on almost every other country in the world to never acknowledge or accept an American as a refugee. Because it tarnishes the American reputation. And shout out to Reigning Woman. She is amazing. Everybody should go check out her channel. Yeah, I should introduce, you know what, y'all should be introduced to each other. We're gonna have to make some introductions.
Okay.
The United States makes it a point to establish that if any countries acknowledge that Americans can be refugees, it really tarnishes the American image. Interestingly enough, there are two people and groups of people in America who could even apply for it are Native Americans and Black Americans. Now, having said that, there are a lot of countries that still will. And believe it or not, Brazil is one of them. When I came to Brazil, I did a lot of paperwork. And the one that went through first, would you believe that they acknowledged my refugee status and allowed me to just exist in the country until I can get the rest of my paperwork done? I'm a permanent resident here now. Other good stuff with bank account. I mean, I would have my citizenship if the government wasn't coroned down.
Right.
Brother David, who's always welcome to come on and chat with us. International high flying polyglot dude.
Awesome.
Here's the thing. A lot of people don't know that but here's the problem. You got to really look for it. I think Brazil is just awesome. It's a country that I say it's not an A+ in anything, but it's B+ in everything. Quality of life, food, flexibility, I mean, you just can't get any better. Can't get any better. Right. So yes. Well, here, watch this. One of the things that I ended up doing, not that I planned it that way, but I actually had to add this to my LinkedIn, because most of what I do, for people who don't know, is I do editing, proofreading, resume writing. I've been doing way huge amounts of resume writing because a lot of people have figured out they're not going back to a job. Expat relocation services. I help people who need to get out of the United States, and if they want to come to Brazil or want to, I have different affiliates in different countries, but it's mainly Brazil. If they say, "What, I want to get out of the United States," even if they don't want to live in Brazil, just to get out of America to come to Brazil to figure out what they want to do next, I'm one of the people that they hire because my company has people who are multilingual, bilingual, trilingual, and are fluent in paperwork. That's what we do.
Excellent. That's excellent. That's everything.
I tell everybody they can catch me on LinkedIn as well. And when you look, my resume is fun, but I always tell people go all the way to the bottom. And the first thing you look at with anybody is look at their recommendations, look at what other business professionals say about them, because these are the people who under their professional names say, this guy is what he is worth it. He's the business. That's what I tell people. And it's now more than ever. I've had so many. Oh, well, Franciele is Brazilian. She said we have a couple of A+. I said it's not an A+. I might have gotten in trouble on that one. Hello. We always love seeing Deborah. So and I'm going to keep going back to the very first post I made. This is where we're putting it all together. This is a place where, will people post the occasional picture of someone enjoying it? Yes, but what I want are those people who are looking for the right steps to take action, or more importantly, the ones who already have. We put together admins and moderators that have done the thing, have left the country, and say, okay, here is how I can help network you to you, and you to you, and you to you.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what Blacugees is. We're putting together a coalition of African Americans from different backgrounds, different regions that have lived abroad and are able to point people in the directions that they need should they choose to go to, whether it's Brazil, Mexico, Panama, Colombia, Portugal, Spain, Kenya, all over. We have people that are really awesome people that are coming together to make this happen, right. To be able to provide those similar services that you provide for Brazil to a multiplicity of locations around the globe. These are places that are safe, places that offer good health care and health insurance, places that are really, just a place where you can live your life and expand on expand on what you dream to do. I mean, that's another thing. These places will literally invest in you to bring your creativity to the table. They know that we are the American market. They know that. No one's confused about that. The only people that are confused about that are people here in America. They know that we bring the creativity. They know that we bring the soul. They know that we bring the culture. They know that. They know that we work and we've built this, but everyone knows that. The only people that don't are the white people here in America.
And a lot of the Black people in America, I tell you, nothing is more enlightening than traveling to a country like I lived in Japan for about 2 years and having a discussion on the legitimacy of W.E.B. Du Bois's claims about a talented 10th and how it might have been affected by his light skin tone with Japanese people who know a ton of Black history because they're like, don't you guys learn this in school too? We do. And it's like, right. Everybody. So let's do this. Let's address some comments.
Okay. Sure.
Dear brother Edward Ashley Lattimore, who, where do we start with Ed? Ed is this world-class boxer and a professional chess player, and I believe, are you a physicist? I don't know, but here's what I will say is everybody needs to stop what they're doing and definitely add themselves to his Twitter feed because and Ed knows what's coming. He knows the same joke. I tell everybody that I have a keyboard condom on my computer because Ed says stuff sometimes that is so ridiculous and funny that you will end up spitting coffee on your keyboard reading
it. That's great. These keyboard condoms.
So I want everybody to definitely check out Ed Lattimore on Twitter with his 34.8K tweets. Jeez. Talk about overachiever. So the things I want to address that we have in the comment section. Okay. Oh, he's got a physics degree. There we go.
Okay. Awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah. Let's go all the way back up. Eric G asked me an interesting question. Out of curiosity, why did you pick São Paulo, Brazil, other than some other cities in Brazil? If you are talking about Brazil, there are generally 3 cities that you're going to hear the most about. One is Rio de Janeiro, which is known, and I'm going to be hugely stereotypical about this. Any Brazilians in the comment section that want to talk about it, feel free. It's a very different atmosphere. It's a little bit more nightlife-y in a lot of areas. Rio is a place where things can get a little sketchy at night. It's kind of got that downtown New York City 1980s feeling where you could be having fun or you could be about to get robbed.
Yeah.
It's okay. I only go there for business. I only go there for business. So here's the thing. The second is Salvador, and it is a cultural place. It has a huge number of Black people there. The pace of life, it's kind of what I say, if I ever choose to hang out my guns, this is where you go. This is where you go. Laid back way of life, relaxed everything, people, food. It's not a place you want to go if you want that aggressive anything. But São Paulo, Brazil is the hub of a lot of the education systems, a lot of the, not just the education systems, but the systems where a lot of businesses come together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those places where if you're coming with education and money in mind, this is where you come. This is where you come. I can always go holiday in Salvador, or if I feel, I don't like to go to Rio, but if I ever do go to Rio, like say I've got family that comes down there, I can jump on a bus to Rio. It's a 6-hour bus ride or a 1-hour plane ride. So I'll usually get off the bus at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, wake up there, and I'll go to breakfast and start hanging out.
Nice.
It's one of those things that you have to research your city. You got to really research your city. You got to know where you're going. There is no wrong answer. The only wrong answer is the one you didn't research.
All right.
So that's the answer to that one. Now let's see. Let's go to the other question. Brother David, he said, before a refugee to a country, did you research the country's constitution, civil rights, ability to own property, religious freedom? Yes. Yeah, I did. Religious freedom, important to me. I'm an atheist. And for me, there are countries that are claimed to be non-religious countries. Brazil is officially not religious, socially religious, but they're okay with you if you're not religious kind of country. Like I haven't had, like nobody asked me. It's just not a thing that comes up. Whereas I have friends who have lived in countries where on job applications, you have to declare your religion.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
As far as the Constitution goes, Brazil is still developing, It's one of those places where I'm older than the Constitution. That's the thing.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, for me, when we do research, we do look into the Constitution. I check out the political climate. That's the first and foremost. I need to know if there are extremists on whether left or right. That matters. I never wanted to put my family in a volatile situation, jumping out of the pot into the fire, so to speak. In reference to civil rights, yes. And in fact, my son is the one that does that. He digs into the civil rights and the rights of the people. He digs into that portion of it. And as far as ability to own property, absolutely, that's something that we look into, which is kind of a reason why I did. I always wanted to go to China, but I did not like that we can't own property there. I did not like that, and so that kind of was a deterrent for me. Religious freedom, of course, is in reference to faith, because what I found is that most places don't have the visceral hatred for Black people and have aggressive, violent racism against race. Their thing's usually religion. Most other places is religion. And so when we look at a place and when we research places, we always look to see, what the climate was in reference to religious freedoms. We don't want to go to a place where they are hunting down Muslims or or persecuting Christians. Like that's never a place where we will want to go to. As far as constitutions, I can't say that I have some lawyer friends in different countries that kind of explain those things to me because language barrier, right? So my research online is usually a bit limited, but when I do speak to lawyer friends, they're able to kind of explain to me the rights and protections that we would have as being a citizen or being a resident of that country. So hopefully that answers your question, David.
Well, here's the other thing. One of the things that I think we can definitely do in our Facebook group is to make sure that instead of relying on Google, we put together those groups of people that can say, hey, I want to know, does anyone have information on this country? Does anyone have information on, for example, let's look at China.
Yeah.
Boom. Boom. I lived in China for almost 2 years. I came out with some interesting stories to tell. I had a good time. I have a friend who went to jail in China, and she came on and we talked about that, called In Jail in China.
Wow.
Yeah, she did time in China. It's a funny story.
Wow.
And then read China questions. I did a Q&A session with some of my friends from China. I mean, from some of my friends who are also expats in China. People popped in, and we had a good old time talking about what China is like and the people in China and what our Chinese experience was. So I hope everybody gets a chance to check that out. But you got to have those real time. You got to have that real boots on the ground. You know.
Yeah, absolutely, it's important.
Has any country actively recruited specifically Black Americans? I know that some African nations have had a year of return. I don't know all of them, okay? I want to be clear. But I do know that there are a lot of African countries that very specifically are recruiting Black Americans. And I'll tell you the beauty in that. And I don't know. I'm trying to think of the name. If anybody in the comment wants to come in, let me know. Here's what they've done. Everybody knows I'm a square, right? I'm that kid who saw bad stuff over here, went over there, kept my nose in a book. By the time I was in my early 20s, I had at least one university degree, went off for another one. I get to travel the world having fun, lifting weights and hanging out with beautiful women because I'm a square. Like, I don't do trouble stuff and it gives me freedom. So what a lot of countries have woken up to, and what this African nation may have woken up to, is why don't we become the reward for those squares? Why don't we say, hold on a minute. Are you one of those people that doesn't have anything bad on his record, can get a passport, you got a job, maybe you work on the internet? Come on down. We welcome those powers.
Yeah, I know specifically there are African countries. I can't speak to how, like, all the different ones, but I know Ghana is definitely one. And we have some amazing relationships with people in Ghana, some amazing opportunities. It's like it's like the red carpet gets rolled out for you if you come to establish enterprise. Now, if you come and you say you're serious about your work and you show that you're good in your expertise, they'll give you everything that you need. And in fact, how we kind of got in touch with you was because we were going to set a base in Portugal, and that's how we got in touch with you, so that we can do some work in Ghana. That's really our ultimate goal, is to build out a few projects in Ghana and then to make that our permanent residence.
So get this, we got a couple comments to the side. From Brazil, Franciel said, the only problem is that several elected officers are openly extremely religious and try to legislate based on their religion, not always successful, luckily. Here's what I found in most countries is most people, and this is my perspective, this doesn't reflect, Blacugee, this is just the, heathen. Most people aren't very religious at all, but they understand it's a political tactic. So you have a leader that claims to be religious, and then you have the followers that claim to be religious. Neither one of them really are, but they use that to facilitate an agenda. So are you laughing at the political tactic or my open admission of being a heathen?
Both. I think that no, I think that people definitely utilize religion to propagate agendas. I pastored for 10 years and have Christianity as a background, doctorate of divinity, and was well versed in studied in religion. And it was honestly through the persecution of my people that kind of opened my eyes to see that this is really just a farce. So what you're saying is kind of what was the beginning of me realizing that these religions are just utilized to kind of move the sheep around from one place to another. And as far as heathen, I think, I guess I would be considered a heathen now. I'm not overtly religious. I'm not anti any religion at all. I believe that faiths have their place, but I I am cautious when it comes to governments that utilize different faiths to propagate their agendas, and I try to be cautious and kind of walk gingerly with that, right? To keep my eyes open. But no, I think that the question is valid. Do we have to subscribe to a faith to be a part of this society? That's what I'm interpreting the question to be. And I feel like for me, I don't want to move from one form of bondage to another. I want to be free. So if that means, living in an atheistic society, well, then that's it. Well, if I want to worship, I want to worship. I want to be free. And the places that we have lived and looked into, and those places offer those type of freedoms.
Yeah.
Now, did I know you were a minister?
I'm sorry?
Did I know you were a minister?
I told you.
You did?
Yeah.
You must have said it real fast, because I mean, here's the thing. It never came up again, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's not who I am. It was, when I was young, and it was my first form of giving back to my community. Okay. We had a church in Niagara Falls, New York, for 10 years, Ecclesia, Ministry of Worship, and it was an outreach ministry. We did outreach, and she was my co-pastor, and we served a lot of people in the community, and we still stand by that work. I still stand by that work.
Right. It's not necessarily. It's sort of like an evolution. It's a previous chapter, so to speak, in terms of us being in ministry actively. But it did help to sort of shape us in a certain extent in terms of, that phase of our lives, and as far as giving to the community and being really active with trying to find solutions. Like, that's really where we learned how to sort of use a logistical approach to finding solutions to life, whether it was we created soup kitchens, we gave, all kinds of things that we did within the community. We used to pay people's rent, pay people, had campaigns to pay rent, pay people's electric bills. We paid for funerals, weddings. I mean, it was a part of what, it was really just a part of us sort of discovering in an outlet of our power at that time.
Eric G said, are foreigners allowed to buy property? Yes. Yes, as a matter of fact, we are. And as a matter of fact, now that I'm a permanent resident, I have access to the investment market here. For those who don't know, I do quite a bit on this channel. We talk about three things. We talk about money, which is my favorite subject. I semi-retired from being a financial professional at 37. Money is an amazing slave. It's a cruel master, but when you understand how to make money work for you, I love talking about money. I do investments. I do Bitcoin. I'm learning Forex. But it all started with understanding how finance worked. And two, we talk about a lot of international things. We talk about not just life in Brazil, but just life all over the world, because most of my friends who come here, we've all had a lot of international experience. But we also talk about a lot of social issues like we're talking about right now. So are foreigners allowed to buy land? Yes. Yes, as a matter of fact, they are. And for those who don't know, let me show you guys something real quick, because I have a few people that I'm working with. That's one USDNDRL that I'm working with right now. That I've shown a few things. That right there, that conversion rate, my goodness.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, conversion is always good. That's one thing I love about traveling, is what you get for your dollar. If you can earn your income in US dollars, and anywhere that you live, Brazil, Spain, I mean, anywhere that you live, it's just your money just goes so much further. And that was something that I definitely loved and love about being abroad.
Yeah, it definitely opens up your opportunities, when you have the flexibility of where you want to invest your wealth, where you want to invest your income. You know, when you look at it from that perspective, as opposed to sort of, you know, sometimes when you're just going through the process of working and you're sort of in the rat race, you're just seeing yourself as, you know, paying your way through life, as opposed to when you begin to sort of see life and journey through life on this more of a global type of lens, then you are able to see, okay, well, do I really want to invest this much money for this type of overhead and quality of life in one place where there's an opportunity for me to do and gain so much more by using those same funds somewhere else, you know? And that's what we were able to, you know, find was such a benefit, you know, to be able to pay off, you know, debt and all of that just through traveling and sort of limiting our overhead that we had here in the States. And it just opened up so many opportunities using those same funds abroad.
It's not how much better you live, even spending euros. There's only like 3 places in the world where you lose by having dollars. Yeah. When you can figure out, and this is something else that I guide some of my clients through, when you can figure out how to take whatever you do and use it to make money remotely, online, no matter how you do it, it's very hard to lose. Very hard to lose in $1,000,000.
So true.
Yeah, I was talking to my mother-in-law, and I was telling her, I says, you know, she makes this amazing fried chicken, right? Like it's amazing. Like she should have a restaurant. And I says, you know, you can literally go anywhere in the world and get you a cast iron skillet, get you some grease, go get some chicken, and you're a business. The things that we know, the things that who we are just as a people, basic things, like if you can make a good sweet potato pie, there are people that will patronize your business. Everything about you is a business, whether it is something you can convert to online or, you know, these other places, you know, they to get licenses for a restaurant or a small a permit. It's so much easier to get those things in other countries than it is in the States. It's like everything here, they kind of handcuff you and, well, you know, you gotta, you know, pass this inspection and have all of these different unnecessary steps where you can just go to Mexico and open up a fruit stand and sell fried chicken next to the fruit stand and make a killing. And
make profit. Now here's what I'm worried about right now. Because quarantine forced so many businesses to close, there is a restaurant. Let's see, there is a restaurant here in Sao Paulo that I would love to take y'all to when you get down here. And I'm so worried because it's a small refugee from Africa owned restaurant. And I'll tell you, the food there, I feel like I'm robbing them sometimes. I really feel guilty.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Like, and because of the way cultures are different, like most places they're not allowed to tip. It's just not okay. So the best way I do it is I come in and I bring as many of my friends as they can. And it's this small back of the road restaurant with like 2 long tables. So you're sitting next to somebody you don't know and they're all speaking different languages and the food there. And you don't listen, you don't necessarily know what's on the menu today. You just walk in and say, hey, what good today? And well, today we may, look at that, the fresh fruit markets. I'm looking for a picture. But, you know, it's one of those things that's one of those things that I believe I worry about. I really worry about after, the Black Expats in Brazil group are I hope that it's still open so I can take you guys there. I don't know where this picture is. I'm sitting here scrolling through. In any case, I'll find it and I'll have to share it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point that you bring up too, in reference to this whole COVID situation, right? So we came back because our son, you know, we were in Mexico. He graduated. All of his cousins was graduating. We came back to the States so he can graduate, you know, and have his parties and stuff with his cousins and everything. He was thinking about going to school back in the States. He wanted to go to UB. And
that's the University of Buffalo.
Yeah. And so, you know, UB is a pretty solid school. It's pretty decent, right? So he's like, okay, you know, I'll check this out, he thought, right? And then he decided he didn't want to go to UB because he's a teenager and they don't know what they want yet. But we ended up, moving down here to Florida. So now we're currently in Florida, right? And COVID happens. Shuts down everything. Happens in March, right? We get here, everything shuts down. I have been really kind of considering, because I did not want to be stuck here in the States. I've been really considering, what is this going to do in reference to travel? Once we, go to Portugal, once we go to Ghana, what is that going to look like? And then also, what type of economic opportunities are going to be available? Because, like you said, some people may, some things that are there may not reopen after this whole situation.
It depends on what you do, though, because for certain people, the economy has gotten better. Depending on what you do and how your business is oriented, it's kind of like the 2008 financial crisis. All that crisis did was make the people on the top half or top third of the financial business richer. Why? It just kills off the small people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's what I found. The name of the restaurant is La Lingerie, but there, check it out.
It's a restaurant Senegalese. And where are you located?
So it's a Senegalese restaurant.
Yeah. I've never had Senegalese.
We will go eat. We will eat some fish and rice and jollof rice and whatever else they happen to have that day. And I found out how they make their money. This is interesting. When you go there at like, let's call it 8:30 at night, and I would go in sometimes, and it would be me and some friends. There's like almost nobody there. And the second time we went, we figured out what was happening. They have an army of bicycles. These guys come in off their bicycle. Each one of them will grab 2 bags. Each bag will have between 6 and 8 to-go boxes. They sell for $10 each, and that's like $2.50. And they just have so many people that order from there. They don't make their money in the restaurant. You just see her in the back, just boom, 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 and it's like 1 full bag of chicken and rice, 1 full bag of fish and rice, 1 full bag of vegetarian, and they just go to the point where they're so well known they don't have to have orders. They can just go to somebody's business and be like, "We got what you need."
Wow, awesome! That sounds good. Yeah, you got to do a video showing them cooking back there. That'd be awesome.
I'll have to ask.
Yeah, you should.
Let me address a quick question.
Sure.
Brother Eric said, Google says only South Africa will let foreigners buy land. Here's where Google fails us, right? You got to talk to people who are there.
Right.
Because Google is good. It's like when it's right, it's really right. But when it's wrong, it's really wrong.
Right. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you can buy land in Mexico, Panama, Colombia, Spain. Every place that we went to, you can buy land. Right. Like there wasn't any place you can buy land and it will be yours. And actually, in fact, we have a real estate investor who's a part of the Blacugees. She's also a moderator, and that's what she does. She buys land and she buys properties abroad. And so there's not many places that won't allow you to purchase land.
Now, I do know in Africa there are a lot of countries that technically have like a 99-year lease.
99-year lease
is what they consider it. So you're able to buy land in terms of buying access to that land for up to 99 years, and the property, like the actual, property that you're building there obviously belongs to you. But in certain countries, there is a lease term on it. But again, that's where you get into your research, and that's where the benefit of, this type of community and having, people that are there or have the different different resources in terms of connection and network to put you in contact, so you get the right questions answered, because that's really what's going to make the difference in the type of decision that you make as to what country is best for you or not. So, if anyone is interested in that, you leave it in the comments, then leave it in a comment in the group, and we can definitely try to point you in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely get you connected with someone with boots on ground that is definitely in, has the answers for you, and they're an expert in their field. All of these people, they know their stuff, right? So we're not, this Blacugees movement is about actual experts, and I would consider you, Yusef, an expert. You're an expert at this. You've been doing it. You've been living abroad longer than you were living in the States. You're an expert. You're an expert in this area, and so those answers will definitely be made available to everyone.
Right. And one of the moderators that is a part of the group, Paul, he actually is from Johannesburg. He's lived in London, and he's currently in Grenada. And he
Have you been to London?
What's that?
Have you been to London?
We haven't been to London.
Never wanted to. Not gonna lie. Never.
Yeah, unless somebody's paying you a lot of money. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. London, money, but the example I give people is this. Have you ever been out with your friends? It's Saturday night, and you say, I could eat something right now. One of your friends says, hey, I heard of this great Japanese restaurant. Let's go there. And then another friend of yours says, no. There's this new African restaurant. We should go there. Then another friend of yours says, no, I got you both beat. Why don't we go to this Italian place to get some pasta? Have you ever had anybody say, let's go get some food from London?
No, you never. No, you don't.
And because of their lack of sunlight, and I know somebody's going to kick my ass for this one, but have you ever noticed that whenever they say Miss Universe, the most beautiful woman in the world or most beautiful woman in the county is from London, she's not from London. She's from like Sudan, or she's from, the Bengal region of India, or she's from Mexico and she was born there, but you never hear, Claire Schimbleshanks from Essex. From Essex. It doesn't happen. Those women aren't that pretty, but you know what? I'm already gonna get punched in the face for this one. I can't go back. But that's my thing. And the weather is bad.
Yeah, you know what it's like? It's like Western New York. It's constantly overcast. It's cold. It's dreary. I had no interest in doing it.
You know what? I mean, maybe you can testify, because I try to explain to my Brazilian friends what cold is. Now, to give you an example, today is a cold day in Brazil. Today, hold on, what am I wearing? Today is a cold day in Brazil.
That's crazy.
Okay? When I go out, I might have to put on my hoodie.
Wow. That's not cold.
No, that's not cold.
That's not cold. That's spring.
That's perfect weather.
Right. In fact, that was another thing. I didn't want to be in the cold, right? So we first went to Spain. We first went to Spain. It was in the spring, right? And so I'm thinking, okay, I'm by the Mediterranean. So I'm thinking, hey, it's gonna be all good. We're leaving from Nicaragua to, which is hot, right? To go to Spain. And so, man, we get there and oh my God, it was so cold, dude. I'm like, this is like New York cold. So what I did was, it never dawned to me before, but I just checked the lines of longitude and latitude and kind of opened up the world map. And I'm like, oh, this is right across from DC. Like no wonder it's so cold. This is directly across from DC. And so you definitely want to be knowledgeable of the climate. We actually were able to kind of downsize a lot of stuff. We had all of these like 16 bags or whatever when we first left. And you kind of downsize. And so, once we got to Spain, it was just so cool. We went immediately to a little Chinaman's store. He had like this everything in the world you can get at the store. He had everything in the store, and just kind of bought some coats and stuff. And then 2.5 weeks later, blazing hot, Serengeti hot, man. It was so hot. And actually got a sunburn. I didn't know black people can get sunburn. Got sunburn from that heat. So it's definitely something you want to kind of keep it in your mind there.
Here's the other thing about, maybe you two can help me understand, because I try to explain, and I might even be repeating myself because it's so ingrained. I try to explain to my Brazilian friends what cold is, but they can't conceptualize it.
No. That's like even in Nicaragua, they were still wearing jeans in Nicaragua and it's like 90 degrees. And so.
Yeah, it's, the type of cold that you're used to or that you grew up in, you know what I mean? It's really. To
the bone.
It's just a different level of cold. Now I'm saying that, obviously like Antarctica and places like that, that's a different level as well. But that lake effect snow up there in New York, it's just like bone chilling.
Those Arctic blasts, like when it gets.
Wait, I got one for you. Remember when you were a kid and you would be about to get ready for school, you put on your underwear and your mom would say, stop. And she'll get the Vaseline. Down and get that layer. Because you want to get that extra layer of warmth between you and then the rest of your clothes.
Yeah. A funny story is that once we moved back we came back from Mexico and flew right into Mexico. With our suitcases and needed to we didn't have any coats when we flew in. So my sister, came to the airport and she brought coats for us.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And, it was such a challenge, even though our kids weren't small children, they're teenagers. It was such a challenge to get them to understand how to properly dress to live in Western New York. Like they lived in so many different countries. They lived for the majority of the time of their lives in the South, and they just could not conceptualize how to properly dress, how to wear scarves and hats and boots. It's like, sir, do you not see all of this snow outside? Why do you not have on, why don't you have your coat zipped up? Why don't you have on hat? Like,
you have to let them learn the hard way.
Yeah, that is how they have to try. And actually, with my youngest son, he used to was going to school, and he would always have snow in his boots, and he'd be so frustrated because he had snow in his boots. And I'm like, because you don't tie them up. Like, you have to get suited and booted for this cold. Like, it is. Yeah.
It's like Iron Man putting on the armor.
Yeah, right.
Check this out. I have a couple of clients who they had to do a business presentation in New York City in December, and they were going to stay for Christmas and New Year's. And I said, okay, but I helped them with some of their TED Talk presentations. And I said, you understand it's going to be cold. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going to bring some extra jackets and like a sweater. A sweater. Right. I told him, I said, well, when is your conference over? He said the 23rd. I said, why don't you just come home? He said, no, I want to spend Christmas in New York City. I'm going to go downtown. I'm going to see the Rockefeller Center. I'm going to go ice skating. And I said, do you know it's going to be like, and I showed him pictures, but when you show people, they get a fantasy in their head.
Yeah.
So why did the day after Christmas, he called me like this, YT, I went outside. I want to go home. I was like, I told you, I don't like it. I got to be here 2 more weeks. They won't let me change my ticket because it's too close to years. I had to warn you. So he spent Christmas and New Year's mad in his hotel room, a Brazilian.
Yeah, it's definitely a different level.
Yeah.
Whole different level. But like I said, if you get snow in his boots, tell him, listen, when you get sick and you're sitting there hacking up a lung, I want you to remember I tried to help you.
Absolutely. That was the only way for them to learn through experience. I'm like, you just got to go out there and let that wind and that snow attack you, and then you'll understand where I'm coming from. But,
Are people nicer in places where it's not that cold? Like, did you notice that you're not like, ugh, when you left Niagara, New York, because that cold weather, it breathes a hardness into your heart.
It does.
And also the cabin fever also, I think, because you spend so much time indoors,
and
and you're not getting that sunlight, and, it's constantly overcast. And so it definitely has an effect on your mood and emotion, emotionally. Absolutely.
Well, for us in Brazil, if there is a day when you can't go have coffee on the side of the road with your friends, you feel cheated in life. Like, you see this picture, I'm going to show you this is just an average day in an average month. Hey, let's go down to Paulista Avenue and get some, I don't know, some fried chicken and fish on the road and on the side of the street and just hang out. This is what an average time is like for us. So if you can't do this, you feel cheated.
Right. Yeah, when we were in Colombia, they call it the land of eternal spring.
The United Nations of Supervillains.
Wait. When we were in Colombia, they call it the land of eternal spring.
In Medellin.
In Medellin. And it was always 70 to 75 degrees. Always.
Year round.
And it was absolutely beautiful. It was absolutely gorgeous, so relaxed. They just were very happy. The Paisas, oh my God, I love the Paisas. They're so welcoming. They're very loving. They love to teach you Spanish. Right. If you try, they will teach you. Very, very helpful people. And it was just like that. It's just you walk outside, just go to the little bodega right there and, have some coffee. Just have some coffee. Have a couple, they love chicken down there too. Or chicken is amazing down there. A lot of Afro-Colombians down there. It was just a really, really wonderful experience. And having that consistency in the weather was amazing. In fact, my mother came to visit me down in Colombia. That's, first time one of our relatives came out to visit with us was in Colombia. And she fell in love with the place. She really did.
Yeah, she came for like 3 months. And, during the time her and her husband came, and the interesting part is that when he initially showed up, he was walking on a cane. Yeah. And I want to say, I don't know his exact age, but I believe he was like late 60s, early 70s.
Early 70s,
And so they came and, we needed a wheelchair and all of that type of thing to get them to the house. And, he had a cane and everything. And prior, he was taking physical therapy like 3 to 5 days a week every day here in the States. So his family was a bit hesitant about him coming to Colombia. They had definitely had their fears, and how the media likes to drum up, that fear as far as going to different foreign lands. And so nevertheless, they came, and within that first, I want to say, week, about maybe 7 to 10 days, within that period, he was no longer walking on a cane. He was going and walking like 1 to 3 miles a day. We lived right downtown near like a major park there. And he was going out every day, taking walks. I mean, his health like regulated his body, just being in that temperature, also being in an environment where he was able to just get out, get fresh air. The food is much different in Colombia. It's a lot more organic food is available. It's not, as much GMOs and all of that. So both of their health, definitely regulated very quickly. My mother-in-law lost a lot of weight. They just turned around amazingly. It was just like really mind-blowing to see how just that change of location really changed their quality of life. And to add to that, we were in Medellin, which is sort of in the middle of the country. And they decided to go, they actually took 2 trips to Santa Marta, which is on the coast. And they took a few trips just on their own, just traveling, catching flights, island hopping in Colombia at 60, in their 60s and 70s, because they had an opportunity to go on out there. So, it's definitely amazing how the weather and just a different scene and different change of environment could breathe life into you.
Yeah.
Hey, Brother David said he lived in Bahia for about 6 months. Bahia is an area in Brazil. That's the place I was telling you about. Bahia is in the northern part of Brazil. And in Bahia, you can also find Salvador, which is probably one of the most famous places that I talked to you about.
Yeah.
So this is it.
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
Yeah, that looks nice.
I've been there for Carnival, and it really is wonderful.
I got it.
Yeah.
But again, it's one of those places where I couldn't do it unless I was almost retired, because everything there is just
real chill.
I don't know if I showed you before that Portugal is amazing. I'm so mad because I came back right before all this shit.
Yeah, me too. Edward, that was actually Portugal, man. It kind of checked off all the boxes for us, Edward. It really did. It was, it was safe. It was affordable. It was in a perfect location. The people were amazing. It was diverse. And then another thing is, like, I don't speak any Portuguese. So I was able to communicate through English and broken Spanish. they were able to understand me and kind of teach me the words or phrases.
Yeah, well, good luck with that in Brazil. That is not going to work out when you come and hang out with me.
Well, yeah, I know you already told me. You gave me the link that we got to learn what to say. I understand. But yeah, it was really, Portugal was really kind of, for me, it checked off, all of the boxes, and
Uh-oh. Looks like they're trying to shut us down. Well, I wanted to post some of the things. For example, Kuduju said, Ghana, Nambia, Botswana, South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Zambia are easy African countries for Black Americans to transition to because they speak English. I did not know that. And I'm also going to go back up and say there was a comment. Let me see. Oh, and Namibia and South Africa also has a lot of good infrastructure. Let's see. There is another link where we talked about. Where was it? I believe. Uh oh. Well, I guess I'll take this opportunity to show you guys a few other things. One of the other things that I deal with quite a bit as part of not just my expat relocation thing, but because of some of the experiences that I've had and some of the financial and international things that I do and some of the things that I deal with as far as helping other people, it got to the point where I was able to, needed to really start filtering because, there they are.
You see us? Okay, cool. Sorry about
what
that.
I was saying is we were talking about African countries, but I was also talking about how because of a lot of things that I do start to come to fruition and a lot of people needed my help on a few different things, I put up, I also started my Patreon. And what I do on my Patreon is this is where people come. And I want to be clear about my Patreon account. It's a lot less fun than my YouTube. This is where I put technical information on the things that we need to do. I'm not going to bore you by reading all these things now, but I do want people to go through and look at some of the things that like how to get background checks for immigration and expat visas. Went in depth on that one. That's something you're going to need. Prison to passport. I have a friend that is the exception to the rule. Came out of prison, got a passport, left America, and is now leading his best life.
Yeah,
we were just talking about that. In fact, I would like to share that that link if you don't mind. Because we were literally just having that discussion. Right. That there are some people that have felonies that still want to be able to get their passport and get out of here.
Yeah.
And so
this is what I'm doing. Let's see. I'll put it here.
Did you post it in Blacugees?
Yeah, there's definitely a perception that, people assume, if they have had any type of, criminal or legal issues, that they definitely, that eliminates their ability to be able to travel or to, expatriate, and that's just something that I think more information needs to, light needs to be shed on that because, there's a large portion of people that maybe fall into that category. And I think it's important for them to know, that the option is there. So.
Right. Yeah, it's a very common question. People think, they think if you have a felony, you just can't leave the country ever again.
Right.
Yeah. So Real Brother said the cost of living in Gambia is insanely low. The top level houses trump the Philippines and Thailand in pricing. Really? We are going to have to actually talk about that because I always tell people Brazil is the perfect intersection between cost of living and quality of life. I mean, I'm sitting here talking to you on wireless Wi-Fi.
Right.
Brazil, I could walk, you could be in my apartment and you could be in any little apartment in downtown New York or downtown LA or downtown Tokyo. It's just, It is what it is. But the quality of life here is very high. So when people compare it to other places that I've lived, like Thailand and things like that, here you can live in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and never do without. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I have to do with a lot of expats is pry them out of the expat bubble.
Right.
And I have to pry them out and show them, no, you don't have to live in that world of only going to restaurants where they have English menus, We're going to go out. We're going to see people. We're going to do things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, living in
Canada is always, I don't know. I've been to Canada many times, but I don't know what the situation is for that. Matter of fact, what I'll also do is
Canada actually has a point system. You know, if you go onto their government's website, it's very, very user friendly in terms of being able to find out what your options are as far as residency and citizenship for Canada. And they do have a point system, and they have a visa that will allow you, depending on what your skilled trade is, they take that particular trade, your level of education and different things like that, and they equate it to a point system. And depending on how many points you have, it will, give a qualification as to whether or not you can be able to enter into that country. But I would definitely, anybody interested in going to Canada, their website's very, very user friendly.
Have you ushered people through that process?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Have you put anyone through
that process?
I haven't actually helped anyone through that process. I have a friend of mine, we have a friend named Crystal in Canada that actually pointed us in the direction of finding out about that, because that was one of the things when we were living up in New York, we were trying to decide whether or not we were interested in going, what country obviously we wanted to go to next. And considering that, as you're aware, New York and Canada right there on that border, we're like, okay, well, let's go ahead and just find out what our options are here. Now, keep in mind that when we lived in New York, we did all of our doctor's appointments in Canada. So we were in Canada, at least once a month or, whatever. We did shopping, everything like that in Canada, because it just was, the healthcare and the affordability of healthcare, along with prescriptions and things like that, are just, drastically less expensive and less complicated in Canada. So we would just literally drive maybe 15 minutes over the border and do everything there. So we used to spend really the majority of our time in Canada, even though we live right right outside of Buffalo.
So watch this. Well, first, by the way, let me show you guys. This is a list I put into the chat. It's called All About Brazil. It's just a bunch of videos that I've done, places that I've been, everything from serious issues about apartment hunting all the way to, for example, things like this. This is at an ensayo. Now, everybody here has heard of Carnival, right?
Yes.
Well, what you don't know is Carnival is not the best thing. The ensayos are the practice parties they have for 3 or 4 months before, big family events. You can bring kids, it's loud, and they go through so many songs and dances, and sometimes they sell plates to raise money. I mean,
nice.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Awesome.
It's amazing. When you guys come down, I tell people, come down November, December, January.
Okay.
It's hot outside. We can go check out some ensayos. I mean, this is where this is one of those cultural aspects that I really love.
Right.
Nice.
It looks amazing.
So let's go back. I want to address something in the comments that Brother David said. He said, you have to admit, in Brazil, you need a high tolerance for structural racism. Well, let's take that bull by the horns. Racism exists in every country in the world. The difference is what level of racism is it. In the United States, as a Black American, racism is at a +10, meaning it can get me killed. Structural racism in Brazil manifests itself in a way that says, because I am, and I'm going to be very clear about this next statement, we can never forget that as Black Americans, we get treated better than a lot of Black people in their own countries. It is what it is. But one of the things we also learn is, in the United States, Dr. Henry Louis Gates, Skip Gates, when he was arrested on his own front porch, a man who you find out who he is. Right. Well, in America, education, nor statute, nor wealth protects you from racism. In Brazil, I have economied and I made that word up. I economied my way out of racism. I don't live in a place where police drive down the street stopping people. And if they were to stop me, I clearly am not someone that they're looking for, because they can look at the clothes that I'm wearing, the way that I walk in the restaurants I'm at. I'm not a poor person. I've gotten, and this is the thing, this is where we get into a conversation that I'm still putting together in my mind. There is a evil confluence of classism and racism. Even though racism it deals with everyone in Brazil, it's worse if you're Black because of racism. So I can say that when you, and Brother David has come here, Brother David has sat on this very couch, you and I get treated differently. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean I don't go places that I wouldn't go in America? People would say, I've had people say some things to me like, what? You should go to see the real Brazil. You should go see like the favelas and the ghettos. I'm like, I didn't live in the ghetto as a child. What?
Right. Clutches pearls.
Why would I do that in another country? If I didn't live that lifestyle there, and by the way, my family wasn't rich, but I didn't have that hood mentality. And they're like, parties are down there. Well, I bet they are. But for somebody who doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, and I'm not shopping for drunk women, I'm okay not going to a cool party. Why don't I go downtown to a nice little bar where they have fruit drinks for me and jazz playing? How about that? How about we do that instead?
Right. Well, I think it does kind of come down to, you will find whatever you're looking for wherever you are. If you are in, whether it's Mexico, whether it's Brazil, whether it's Colombia, if you are looking to, those things, well, then, the police, they crack down on those things. So you're going to probably find some hints of racism there. You can't find, like, there's not a place that I know of outside of the continent of Africa where racism doesn't exist. Like you said, can I get killed for this racism? No. What you normally find in other places is that the violence is usually around religion as opposed to race. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not prejudices. Of course there's prejudices. I mean, people are people everywhere. There's biases. Yeah, there's biases. Maybe there is some systemic racism. Of course. I mean, the Western world runs Earth right now. I'm sure that's going to be the case in some places. But can I die, though? Will I die from going to the corner store? Will I die if I go to church? Will my kid die from buying some Skittles? Probably not. You know what I mean? Now, in Portugal, I know that they have the most aggressive policing in Europe, right? And there are instances of brutality, but they don't murder them, though. Like I can personally deal with not getting murdered. All of the other nuanced things, there's injustices on Earth. I mean, it's human people everywhere, right? But I just want to not have to fear for my son's life because the way he looked. Like, that's not okay. You know what I mean? And so for me, I think that, to your point, whether it's Brazil or any other place, these racism doesn't display itself the same as it does in the U.S. Now, I do know that Brazil has some issues in reference to the policing with the Afro population there as well. Same thing with the Colombia, right? Same thing with Nicaragua, right? They don't even call their Black people citizens. That was weird to me.
Well, that's what we were told.
Yeah, that's by a Nicaraguan. Yeah. And so, so these concerns are valid, but the question does kind of come down to, what are you going to involve yourself? When we were in Mexico, people are like, oh, you down there with the cartel? Yeah, we were. The cartel was right there. But guess what? I'm not doing anything to interact with cartel stuff.
Exactly.
Let's do this, right? Brother Kai Adderley, a dear and respected friend of mine, an educator, he said Afro-Brazilians lead a different Blackness than Black expats. I agree. That is true. That is a true thing.
That's true.
Everywhere, yeah.
In every country.
That's a very different, but here's the thing. When you talk about people getting killed by being Black, that's true. They're just not where I live.
Right.
Now, you can take that, people can take that any way you want to. Feel free to at me if it upsets you. There's a reality to being able to say, my hard work manifests itself differently outside of America, being a tax-paying, hard-working person. I know there are Black people born all over the world that do not have the option, okay, of doing it.
Right.
Yeah. There's a level of privilege that comes with being
American,
being an American citizen, no matter where you are in the world. There is a level of privilege that you carry with you. And that doesn't mean, or that doesn't discount the plight of the people, the Afro, brothers and sisters that are in the diaspora across the world, that, we discount their plight or we disregard the pain that they're going through because, hey, we can go and live in their country in a middle class type of lifestyle and existence in their country. And so it disregards, what they're going through. Yeah. What I do feel like is the reality of it is most times when you are going from the state, you're leaving from the States and you're going to these other countries, and the economy that you are bringing or the type of income that you're generating will allow you to be able to live in a certain way. But that does not mean that you don't have the ability to be able to impact some of the people that are there.
Right.
I think it's sort of like you can do what you can with the opportunities that are provided to you, and those opportunities are provided to you in your life and others.
How do I help? I hire Black people.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. That's one of the major, ways of being able to personally use your power, your influence, your privilege to be able to change somebody's life in that country, being able to lift them financially and economically by providing them opportunities to create income. Every place that we have traveled to, we've always made it a point, to always try to find a way and a method to be able to either hire someone that's, Afro, or we try to definitely make sure that we're either tied into some type of NGO to be able to, find a way to give back. But ultimately, at the end of the day, there's no denial about the fact that, people that are native of that country, they are from that country, they're Afro, they're experiencing injustice, just like we are here.
Right. And the truth of the matter is, I think that the phrase can be coined African-American, privilege abroad, because that's exactly what it is. Yeah. There is a privilege to being African-American.
So, we wrap some things up because I want to say thank you to everybody who has joined us on Facebook.
Yeah,
it looks like we're at 15 or 20. Now, wait a minute. You can say goodbye to them. We've got to stay online and do some administration stuff now. Yeah. But I want everybody joining. We're going to have a discussion on one day soon. I've never been an African-American. I'm a Black American. But I would love to have a talk with you about how we designate ourselves and what that means, kind of like the differences between calling ourselves expats, immigrants, or refugees.
Right. Yeah, we can definitely.
I'm going to give you two the last words.
Well, listen, I want to just, first and foremost, thank you for sharing your platform and seeing the value in what we are attempting to do here with the Blacugees, for spearheading this with us. Thank you so much for the resources that you're bringing to the table. Again, our objective is specifically to provide Black people in America with options for a safe and healthy space for their families abroad. That's the specific objective. And we want to appreciate you, Yusef, for, giving your platform, using your platform to be able to make that happen for people. We really appreciate that. I thank you guys for listening, for, even giving ear to us. And I don't take it lightly. I do appreciate it. Sorry for the technical difficulty that happened here. But outside of that, I just want to say thanks so much. My name is Omar, and I'm a Blacugee.
Right. And my name is Aquila. I also appreciate you, just to, piggyback off of what my husband shared. This platform and the group is really created to be a resource. And I just hope that you guys, add to it, add to the knowledge and the information, the content, and take part in those conversations. We're going to be bringing in a lot of people that are starting to ask these questions, what are my options outside of the States? And all of you that have the experience, your experience is valuable. Like, you are going to help to illuminate the possibility for so many people and help them to understand that it's possible for them. Some of the content that we're going to be creating and adding to our own YouTube page, we're going to also be recapping the countries that we did visit as a Black family of 4 traveling around the world. We're going to be giving our pros and cons in terms of what we experienced, how we were able to navigate those countries, and also how we were able to budget and do so with our children. A lot of people are really concerned with, especially when they have kids, taking them across the country or taking them out of the country to other countries. They're concerned about their children's health, education, etc. And those are all the things that I'm going to be tackling when we go back and do recaps on those countries, so that you can understand the options that we were able to put in place, and hopefully you can find a lane for yourself. So thank you so much for having us on your channel. Thank you everyone for participating, and we appreciate and hope to get to know you a little better.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
So it'll say end broadcast on your side when we go off.
Okay.